Warning. This video and all other videos on this channel are for entertainment purposes only. The content of this video and all other videos on this channel are the opinions of the creator only and do not constitute legal, trading, investment, or financial advice of any kind. Investing carries a high level of risk and the majority of retail clients lose money. Do not invest any capital unless you understand the risks and you are prepared to lose it all. Right. Is it actually Friday? It's Friday. All right. Hello and welcome to Camel Finance. I'm your boy Camel and it's Friday, baby. It is Friday. I'm actually really looking forward to Saturday for a number of reasons. One, I can't wait to do the deep dive. I'm going to touch on a couple of things ready for tomorrow's deep dive. I've also got the podcast with Cobra Stacker and CPM, and that's going to be on the new channel as well. So look out for that on Sunday. I wanted to start by asking you, what is it that Gary Gensler is trying to tell us here? Do you know? Is he speaking without speaking, or is my tinfoil hat just way too tight and constricting the blood flow to my little camel brain? You let me know. We also saw Semler Scientific add another 247 Bitcoin for about 17 million bucks to its balance sheet, following in the footsteps of the MicroStrategy Bitcoin standard for corporate treasuries. So pretty wild, right? Pretty wild. I wonder if this is the start of many more things like it to come. We also have BlackRock buying 4,900 Bitcoin, and yet the price hasn't moved. So I wanted to touch on this. I've got maybe 2 or 3 ideas for what could be behind this. A lot of people have been getting frustrated. A lot of people have been asking me in the comments, how is it that we're seeing such massive inflows into these ETFs, and yet price continues to trade sideways? So I've got about, like I said, 2 or 3 ideas. The first one is probably the most speculative, and I think probably the least likely. The first one is, we know that BlackRock, for example, can borrow Bitcoin from Coinbase and settle it off-chain. So there's always a chance that that's what's going on and that they're borrowing Bitcoin, selling it into the market, and we just can't track it because it's being settled off-chain. Maybe that's the way they create this little IOU between BlackRock and Coinbase. Maybe that is what's at play here. So can't rule it out. I personally don't think that's the biggest driver here. And I think it's far more likely that one of the next 2 ideas of mine is what's keeping the price suppressed, or at least keeping it sideways, let's say. I don't want to say it's suppressed. I don't think that we're out here fully suppressing the price, and I'm going to show you that in just a second. So the second idea is that these buys are essentially net neutral because we could have some kind of arb trade going on. So how this would work is you, for example, buy the spot Bitcoin ETF, okay? You buy the shares in the ETF, and in a 1-to-1 ratio, you perhaps short sell the futures. And then you can just collect the spread or the difference, right? Maybe that's what's going on here. So that even though there's a huge amount of inflows into the ETF, the total ETF inflows are actually being counteracted 1-to-1 with other types of derivatives that are being short in order to collect that spread in between. So maybe that's the way, right? Maybe that's what's going on. Maybe that's the reason that these flows aren't actually showing price appreciation as we should be expecting to, given the amount of money flowing into the space. I think that's more likely than the first idea. And personally, I think even more likely still is there's too much leverage in the system, and all the while people keep betting the farm on leverage. Then we're just going to keep creating honeypots and liquidity traps for price to move into. So right here, we've got 400 million in sells in a 1.5% move, which covers all of the ETF buys in 15 minutes, right? So I think this is probably what's going on. I think everyone is too degenerate, they're too long, they're too levered up. And if you keep betting the farm on leverage, and so many people keep doing this, that it's creating huge hundreds of millions of dollars pots of liquidity in the forms of stop losses and liquidation levels, then this is most probably what's going on. Until people run out of money, until people learn to stop betting the farm on leverage, then we're probably going to keep creating these little honeypots for the price to move into. That's kind of what I think is mostly at play here. There will at some point be a time in which we see a spot-driven move to the upside and we don't see OI creep up the whole time. And if that's the case, then it's probably go time. But until such time as people stop levering up, then we're probably going to keep having to liquidate them until everyone is wrecked and has got no money left, right? That's probably what I think is at play. It could, of course, be a combination of all three. It could be none of these things. But for me, this is probably the most likely. I think the ARB trade idea is probably the second most likely. And I think that whole paper Bitcoin stuff with the IOUs and off-chain settling for Coinbase and BlackRock is probably the least likely thing to be keeping the price down. But it probably is having some effect if we assume they are doing it, which we don't know for sure because it's settled off-chain anyway. So I hope that answers that question for the people that keep asking me that. Nice chart here from Rickus. He says, be open to this as a possibility. It would make for an ideal double top call from the Bitcoin parrots on crypto Twitter. And I had a good look at this. And I actually think that this is, whilst it would be an invalidation of the left translated cycle idea, I think this would be quite nice. I think this would be probably the best case scenario. Now, I have a bunch of conflicting ideas about this. If indeed we saw something like this down, that would give us the space in the 4-year cycle to say, okay, that's probably around a half cycle low for the 4-year cycle. And then we could probably look for that big extended right translated push to a much later high than I am currently expecting, followed by this typical 12-ish month bear market decline. And that would be Bitcoin doing Bitcoin things. It would be slightly different that we made an all-time high before the halving. But ultimately, if we did something like this big base build, okay, like Rickus says, one, it would be the perfect spot for everyone to call a double top and say that that's it, right? And like I said too, it would invalidate the left translated cycle idea and give us the space to go up and make a right translated cycle, which many people are still confusing from me. They think I want a left translated cycle so that I can say I told you so that I can claim clout online, and so that I can say, ha, I was right and everyone else was wrong. Make no mistake about it, I want the right translated cycle for two reasons. Number one, we'll get a higher number than if we left translate. And number two, it will be way easier for me to sell the top of, because not only can we use the normal breakdown signals, not only can I use all my standard TA that I use to get me out near tops, I can also have a confluence with a time component based on the 4-year cycle count. So nobody wants that more than me, okay? But I can't help but notice if indeed we continue to do this, okay, and we don't indeed have this little push followed by a rollover, then it will look exactly like a left translated cycle is supposed to look, and thus I will have to continue to just be an objective market observer when I say the thing looks a lot like a left translated cycle to me. Of course, there's always people that push back here and say, no way, Camel, double pump, okay? And maybe that's true, okay? But one day at a time, if that's true, there'll be a breakout to play somewhere down here. I reckon it will be a low probability breakout, but we will have to play it anyway. And that's another reason I don't want a left translated cycle, because I don't want to have to take some profit here and then buy what I consider to be a low probability bounce lower down. I don't want to have to deal with double pumps and this kind of thing, because there's no way of knowing on that breakout whether it does go all the way, whether it forms a lower high, or whether it just does something like this. And then we do indeed get that typical extended bear market following a left translated cycle. So I would love nothing more than to be invalidated, see this play out and give us the space. But given the state of everything else at the moment, given what I'm going to present tomorrow in the deep dive, I don't necessarily think this is the most likely. As Ricka says here though, be open to this as a possibility. It is indeed a possibility. Oh, one more thing I wanted to say regarding possibilities and people calling double tops from the parrots on the CT. Okay, I wanted to point this out. For the stock market looks pretty good right now, okay? But we are indeed very late in this daily cycle, okay? So we're looking for around 40 days on average. Well, let's say 36 to 44 would be bang average. That would be inside of the 10% tolerance. We're currently on day 33, okay? So if we get some kind of cycle top, daily cycle top in the next couple of sessions, something like this perhaps, okay, up and then a rollover, a sharp decline, I'm just warning you now, in this short decline into the cycle low, all over crypto Twitter, all over Twitter in general, all over social media, you're again going to see people calling for the top. You're going to see a lot of I told you so's, a lot of ha, told you the thing was bearish, look at my shorts, printing money. You're going to see all of that. And again, it will just be cycles doing cycle things, right? Resetting the sentiment, resetting the price, ready for that next leg higher. So if indeed over the next few days we see a couple of red candles into that cycle low, just remember, okay, that's normal and to be expected. Don't believe the bears, don't believe the top callers, don't believe the I told you so gang. We will most probably find a cycle low and come swinging out of there. In other news, Canada has cut rates by 0.25%. So has the EU, right? So has the ECB. So does this tell us that the Fed is up in the not too distant future? Well, as I've been saying for a long time, it is my expectation that we will see them cut way ahead of what most market participants believe is possible. Typically speaking, we don't see major divergences between central banks, right? We see a few of them go first, and then we see the Fed follow, or the inverse. They tend to all follow, they tend to fall like dominoes, and thus, I take all of this, okay, as an early warning sign that we are indeed right about seeing rate cuts way ahead of what most people think is possible. And of course, what I've been using as the signal in terms of rate cuts is the 2-year bond yield. I said if this thing rolls over and starts to look like this, it will tell us to expect a Fed rate cutting cycle, again, way sooner than most market participants are ready for. And historically speaking, okay, times of financially stressed conditions for the stock market occurred in every other case. So again, I'm going to save all of this in detail for tomorrow's video. But understand this, if you're in the camp of people that says, no way they're going to cut anytime soon, okay? Well, once again, I say, tell that to the bond market. By the way, this is back from April 12th, okay, with the 2-year yield right here. If we hop into the US 2-year yield, as you can see, starting to think about breaking down. And the same is true of the 10-year yield. If I click on the 10-year yield right here, already working on breakdown, retest, resumption of that prior low, okay? So again, tell that to the bond market. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, come back tomorrow and we'll check it out then. Couple of other things I wanted to point out, okay? Nvidia versus Cisco. How are we looking? Okay, notice how they print this thing in Business Week right at the top, right before the final push to the blow off top. And that was all she wrote for Cisco. What do we have at the left-hand side? Okay, Nvidia, similar sort of vibe, okay? Does it tell us to be open to seeing perhaps one final smaller upside push followed by the end? Again, not a popular idea. People don't want to believe that rate cuts are coming and the stock market top is just perhaps weeks away. People don't want to believe that Bitcoin might only have one final push for a few more weeks and then that could be it. But to that, I simply say, 1, tell it to the bond market, and 2, did you know the NASDAQ just closed a record high? But there were fewer stocks on that exchange rising to 52-week highs than there were falling to 52-week lows. This has not happened many times, and the handful of times that it did, you can see preceded, okay, market declines. We were always very close to a top every time we saw this. In this case, this was the best scenario before the dot-com bubble. There was still one major final blow-off top move to the upside, but the writing is on the wall, at least historically speaking. So higher for longer in terms of a bull market, Raoul Paul, up only forever, right? Infinite liquidity? I don't think so personally. As always, I am open to being proven wrong, but so far the market has yet to prove me wrong. We have got the Dixie breaking down, spending multiple daily closes underneath this trend line, okay? So daily cycle low in sight. If we can get a bounce and a rollover from there, then that may well be the final leg into that 3-year cycle low that I've been hoping to see. It is VIX Crush Friday, so I'm hoping to see them come in and do what they always do on a Friday, which is slam the VIX down. That would give us a nice green finish to the end of the week. But given where we are in the daily cycle, as I was saying, it is about that time to start a decline into a daily cycle low. Out of that daily cycle low, as I've been consistently saying, I'll be looking to add this NASDAQ long and get to full exposure. This was left here from a members video I was doing. And the Dow Jones is probably going to also be looking for one final rollover and go. And if that is the case, then we will probably use that as the new second angle. As ever, we'll take it one day at a time, see how the closes go. The Russell 2K is still doing okay. Those crypto-related stocks looking pretty good. Bitcoin, still thinking about it, isn't it? Hasn't done it yet. Can't get fully excited until we have a weekly close above the prior all-time high. But it is inching higher, and I like the look of it so far. I'm noticing with gold, we've got breakdown, retest, resumption. So we'll find out, right? We'll find out soon enough. All the while, it's holding above the cycle low. Then long and strong. I think this stop loss can come up underneath the cycle low. I'm going to deal with that in the members section. And silver, we need to see it hold on to this $30 level, right? So again, we're going to find out. So as I said, come back over the weekend, check out the deep dive. It's going to be an interesting one tomorrow. If you're a level 3 member, look out for the members only video, the updates on all the members only setups as well. And on Sunday, head over to the What podcast and check out that thing with me, CPM, and Cobra Stacker. In the meantime, I hope you're doing well in life. Until next time, take care from me. All the best. Cheers. Bye.
Always chasing that 60-day cycle low. Randos constantly saying, I told you so. A left translated cycle, most can't forgive. The only thing being